Thank you for tuning in to Timeless Limitless. Please hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to like and share.
Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I've already come. 'Twas grace that brought me safe thus far, and I know grace will lead me on.
My name is Cathryn Mcgill, and I'm the founder and director of the New Mexico Black Leadership Council. And I think that I've always just been like that person who was on the playground saying, well, why don't we get together and have a team? And, why don't we go and talk to those people about things that we don't like? That's always been me, just kind of being that organizer and just kind of getting in people's business, to say like, what is it that we need to do? And so it's just a part of my personality and something I grew up seeing my mother like being of service in the community and sort of really being that person that I admired so much who spoke her mind, and people would always just talk about my mother, who was one of the most generous and kind people that you would ever meet. I feel like she was the epitome of a Christian, and she was also that person that would get you told when you need to get told, and in a loving way, and to show up, suit up and show up every day. And so I just grew up watching her do that, thinking, she's really wonderful. She was a teacher, never made that much money in her life. I think I grew up in Oklahoma, and teachers' pay was like, in Oklahoma, probably 49 out of 50 or 50 out of 50. She never made a whole lot of money, but she was considered to be like this leader in the community as a teacher. Like teachers at that time when I was growing up were really revered. And so people thought we were rich, and we had, I think my mother maybe made $3 more than if she'd made $3 less, she would have qualified for food stamps. It was that bad. She had a master's degree, and 5 kids to feed. But the money part of it aside, she, because of the way she showed up, was considered to be a leader. In the community, people looked up to her. And so that was always my example of service. Like, you show up when it's time. It's not necessarily about the money, although we do need to have a really good relationship with money in our community. It's not about the money, and certainly the people that show up in those in-between times when there is no money, but there's a need, that was my mom. And so that was my example. So that's how I got started. Like really when I from the earliest I can remember, everyone in my family was, providing service. And I often joke and tell myself that, Kathy, you could have been a doctor and then you wouldn't be driving a 15-year-old car. And, I didn't want to do that. Like I always wanted to be in the public service, and I worked in the city government for a while. And then I decided that I could do better with creating change by working sort of on the outside and affecting. So I've been doing this for my whole career, and it was not a happenstance thing. It was by choice, because this is what I know. This is what I grew up seeing. And really the work that I love to do is to be able to have a tangible representation of change. And it's like it's an interesting thing, because sometimes it takes a really long time, but there are perceptible differences, and I feel like in my career I can see those things that wouldn't have happened if I had quit.
So when you started the council, the Black Leadership Council, what were the steps to do that?
We started as New Mexico Black History Organizing Committee as a coalition and not a 501c3. And because I had worked in the nonprofit sector, I thought, I don't really want to be a 501c3. So I intentionally started a coalition. We had a fiscal sponsor, and the New Mexico Community Foundation, then now the New Mexico Foundation is called. And we had a wonderful relationship with them for 11 years. But once you start to get to the place where it financially no longer makes sense, you kind of have to become a 501c3 so that you can have some autonomy, so that you can have some long-term sustainability. So as we're creeping into year 8 in that whole relationship, I started to think about some work that we'd done back in 2014 with a study called the Asset Study, which was an intentional play on words, because so much of the investment in our community, or the engagement, I should say, with our community is deficit-based. It's like, let's go see what we can do, because, they need our help, and, it's usually based on deficits. So I wanted to talk about assets, and our biggest asset is our human capital. So we did a community-based participatory research project back in 2014 called Assets, and the acronym is spelled AACETS, and it stood for African American Community Economic Transformation Study. So we did this study back in 2014 and came away with some recommendations. It was a really robust community engagement project, funded in part by the Kellogg Foundation. We do the study, and it, like a lot of studies, sat. We're at 2018, study's still sitting. And so I realized that we didn't need permission to operationalize the recommendations from that study, and that it was time. My relationship was still good with the New Mexico Foundation, but I knew that it was like sort of that child leaving home to go to college, that we needed to leave home and go to college. Like, we needed to figure out, how is this organization going to survive me, its founder? And in order for that to happen, I needed to, whether I wanted to or not, and believe me, I didn't really want to, because it takes you into a whole different level. I didn't really want to go into becoming a 501c3, but I knew that it's not about me, and it was time to go do that. So we had to put in place a 501c3. There's, just to formulate, step-by-step instructions for what you need to do that. We went through that, became a 501c3, separated from our fiscal sponsor, which means that you're standing on your own. It's like, you got a bank account, you don't have anybody to fall back on. It's really, truly like leaving home, and, where you're thinking, well, are we going to be eating top ramen, or, having to do Campbell's soup, or, what are we going to do? But whatever we eat for dinner is going to be because we created it, not because you are, working with someone else. And so we did that back in August of 2019, and I wish that I could say that, oh gosh, it's just been a walk in the park. It was so easy. There have been many days when I'm thinking, Kathy, you could just quit and, go get a job. But, in spite of and because of, I continue, because I really want to see this organization be here for the long term. When I walk out the door, which I hope I'll get a chance to retire sometime soon, when I walk out the door, it'll be confidently knowing that New Mexico Black Leadership Council is something that is needed in our communities, and that it will be here to stay. Yeah.
So when the idea came to you, what kind of, beyond your mom, what inspired you to start the organization?
I think that part of what really inspired me to start it was that I really kind of just got tired of people from dominant culture saying, when they would make the same omissions and errors over and over again. Well, where can we find black people? We didn't know what should we do? Like I'm not sure. Like where are you guys? Who should I call? That kind of thing. Just completely dumbfounded, kind of a puzzlement about where to find black people in New Mexico, and categorizing us as statistically insignificant. On the one hand, we have that coming from dominant culture, and then on the other hand, from within our own communities, people saying, well, we have the 3% population. Arguably, I think it's probably a lot more because of the way census stuff is counted. I think we have a bigger population, but what dominant culture will tell us is that we have 3% of the population, and invariably, and this happened around Black History Month every year, no one would have any idea of what was happening. Like, what's happening this month during Black History Month? And people be like, oh, I don't know. I'd be like, well, where's the calendar? No calendar. And then when we did find it out, everybody was having stuff on the same day. And you're like, but wait a minute. We got to do better. When you know better, you have to do better. And so I said, what we can do is we can go back to the teachings of Carter G. Woodson, the father of Black history, and find out, why did he do it in the first place? And the reason why he did Negro Literature and Achievement Week back in 1926 in the first place was because he wanted to bring the community together. He wanted also to demonstrate to dominant culture that the then Negro people were really an important fabric of the community, and that we were better when we included. And so he was really like that first maybe equity and inclusion officer in the United States who said inclusion is the way to go. That's the ticket to racial harmony. And so I went back to what Carter G. Woodson said. He said, okay, this is what Black history, what later became Black History Month, is all about. It's about inclusion. It's about awareness. It's about letting us see ourselves as successful. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do that, because we both have people saying that they can't find us. They don't know where Black people are. And, we are consistently excluded from the political, social, and cultural landscape. And then even within our own communities, we're saying we don't know what's happening. We don't have a communications network infrastructure. And so we're planning things on the same day. It's not feeling like we have that impact that we could and should have. So New Mexico Black History Organizing Committee was born out of that need. And then, as I say, the trajectory, 2014, we did the asset study. Around 2018, it started percolating that, we've been here almost a decade now. It's time to go to the next level. And then that is what really birthed New Mexico Black Leadership Council.
Okay, nice. And so, since you're the founder, are there co-founders or other people that started the organization with you, or you kind of just went solo with it?
Oh, wow. There have been so many people over the years in the communities. I'm so grateful for all the great advice and the sweat equity that people put into developing what is now New Mexico Black Leadership Council. So there's too many people to name, and I'll get in trouble if I try to start naming everyone. I do want to recognize our board of directors, and specifically people like Amy Whitfield and Dr. Wanda Ross Padilla, who always tells me God knows and God shows, and she, when I'm about to jump off the roof, I call her and she says, don't jump, just remember that all is in divine order. And she, tells me those kind of things. People like Antavius Greathouse, who's been around for a long time, Ken Scott, Jay Gordine from the university, and Dr. Doris Cardiega Coleman also from UNM. So people like that who've sort of been standing in the gap and so are saying, yes, we want this organization to grow. We're going to sign our names to a board, a fiduciary responsibility board, a 501c3, to make sure that this organization continues and to continue to encourage the work. So there have been people like that over and over again throughout the communities who've been there I think about people like Pamela Gooden and Florence Bowers, and I could just go on and on and on. And anybody's name whom I did not mention, charge it to my head and not to my heart. But there have been so many people.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds great. So, what does Black leadership mean to you?
Black leadership to me means that everyone whose skin looks like mine has the ability to step up, suit up and show up, and do what you're assigned to do. I think we all have an assignment, and some of our assignments are similar, but we all bring our uniqueness to them. And so I don't think that leadership is a title. I think that it is an action. So every day we get an opportunity to ask ourselves, what is the leadership that's required of me? What are the actions that I need to take? And what is the service that I can offer to my communities? And so leadership, Black leadership, is suiting up and showing up and doing what you should do just because it needs to get done. And so when people say, well, we're the Black leaders, it's like, what is that? That and $7 will get us a venti coffee at Starbucks today. What is that? We definitely aren't going to name ourselves as leaders, and we're not going to let dominant culture assign our leaders for us. Every single person is a leader because it's an action.
So, like you were saying before, the Black population out here is about 3%.
Mm-hmm.
How do we bring more Black people out here?
I think that a lot of people are wanting to come inland, as prices skyrocketed, in the East Coast and West Coast. So we see a lot of new people coming into New Mexico. I think the thing is going to be getting people to stay. Mm-hmm. So retaining individuals in the city and in the state is going to require us to kind of come together as a community and really create that rock solid, soft place to land for people when they come here. I often hear from people, wow, I haven't met anybody, it's hard to meet friends, where do I go? And we want to just create more organizations and more centers of influence that are a soft place to land.
Hey, so what's up with you?
I thought I was all right, but then COVID and life,
Believe me, it ain't just you. But you know what they say, gotta keep your head up. Sounds like you can use Uplift.
Emergency rental assistance, COVID-19 vaccine facts, job information, mental health education, voter registration. Wow, this is cool. Uplift, that's what's up.
Like I said, you're not alone.
Uplift is what it is. We have to save ourselves.
Yeah.
We have to save ourselves. And part of that starts with us having a good grasp of the information. There's all these programs out there right now. So much money, so much ability for people to say, look, I'm going to go tap into this because it's going to help me on the other side. But I also think that kind of thing can be a trick. So, the federal government said, hey, we got 15 months of rental assistance for you. So if you're in month 1 of your 15 months, what might you do to make sure that when month 15 happens, that you haven't just moved the target? Because the government's not necessarily going to do that part for you. So there has to be some sort of reciprocal accountability where, you're saying in month 1, I'm going to take full advantage of this. I've been down so long that getting up hadn't even crossed my mind. But now that someone's going to give me a shot, okay, here I can go and look at, some of the programs that are at Workforce Solutions. That within 15 months, you could have a certificate to be an HVAC tech, to go work in the film industry. you can get all over your life, if that's possible. There are going to be some times when people are like, I am physically disabled, or I have mental disabilities that are not going to allow me to work. You got 15 months to knock on every door to say, I need help. 15 months where you don't have to worry about paying your rent. Go do it, And so what I'm saying to people is, when you come to us, there's strings attached, because Kathy's going to ask you, are you registered to vote? Did you know the election's coming up? And that's the most important thing that you can do. Go register to vote. Do you have internet at home? Did you know that it's no longer a nice to have? You must have it if you're going to participate in the 21st century. You must. Mm-hmm. And you will be excluded from participation in society if you don't. And did you know that you can get it for free if you qualify? All you gotta do is fill out this form. Oh, I don't have a computer at home. It's like, do you have a smartphone? Because if you do, you have a computer in the palm of your hand. Do you have access to the library? Do you have a library card? Because if you don't know how to use this computer you have in your hand, you can get a library card, and there are access to free resources that cost money. But if you have a library card, they're free. So when you come here, those are the kind of things that people are going to hear. So I don't believe in just saying here, take this and go away forever. I'm not talking about the strings attached that are like with judgment, but the strings that are attached about getting rid of this learned helplessness that is perpetuated. And then when you buy into it, they're like, well, what do you want me to do now? 15 months is up. We gave you 15 months. What do you want me to do now? So then when we get people who are at the what do you want me to do now, they're at 14 months and 25 days. It's going to be tough. And I do think that, there's some, there for fortune go I. If I miss a couple of paychecks, I might be out there in a tent pushing a cart. Inflation continues the way it's going, we might all have a tent and a cart on the street. I don't think that's going to happen, and I'm being a little bit tongue-in-cheek about it, but what I want to say is I'm not here to judge people for why you got into this place in the first place, but let's just deal with what is so. You're where you are right now. There's probably a whole lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons why I'm in the place that I'm in. I know what they are. And individuals know what those things are. So if we really listen actively and say to people, let's talk to me about like what's really going on with you. If it is debilitating substance abuse, and there are so many people who are out in the street right now, fentanyl is a major thing. It's major. And where did it all come from? Big pharma. Right? So, if the ones of us who are not drug addicted will get involved civically and say to the Attorney General's office or to the other people that we need to be going after those organizations who made this problem happen. And who is it adversely affecting? Those individuals that you see on the street, and people are benefiting from it. So that drug is powerful. But we need to have a collective strategy for overcoming it. But then when you think about it, it's not the hugest problem. Like I think when what I'm hearing is that what are there 6,000-7,000 people on the street every night? That's not a huge number. We can't find 7,000 spaces. I mean, I'm trying to think of what the pit is. It used to be 18,000 seats. I think it's less than that. So when it was back in the day, when it was 18,000 seats, it's like a third, a section of the pit. Could we find, with all the money we're spending, somebody to take care of most of the people in that third of that particular arena? I'd say yes. Like, we're spending a lot of money, and in a lot of cases we have an issue that money alone will not solve. So the issues that we're facing are issues that money alone will not solve. we need money. Keep it coming. But we also need collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. 21st century skills to solve these issues. And I believe it can happen.
So when we're talking about keeping the interest of our money in our community, statistics say that our dollar stays in our community about 6 hours, compared to the Jewish community, Asian community circulates for close to a month. So I mean, how can we fix that disparity?
The statistics been around for a long time. People know it. A couple years ago, when in the aftermath of George Floyd and the racial reckoning, I can't tell you how many people were reaching out to us saying, we want to support Black-owned businesses, blah, blah, blah. You know, we want to do it, and it was just like this frenzy of equity and inclusion and support Black-owned businesses. It's not a one and done thing. It has to be over time. And, you know, it's a commitment to supporting, and the businesses also have to maintain quality. Like, I can't come up to your business's close on, you know, Monday at 4 o'clock, you know, when you posted your hours to be, you know, Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, and I show up at 4 o'clock on Monday or again on Thursday and you're closed. So, you know, the businesses have to maintain quality. And then as a community, we need to support quality by taking our dollars there consistently. And I think, you know, it's true of most people. It's like you're willing to pay $2 more or whatever the percentage more is that you need to pay to be able to support our brothers and sisters, because it's so, you feel so good when you're able to do it. You know, it's like, I feel great when I'm able to put my dollars with Black-owned businesses. So we have on our website a place for Black-owned businesses to sign up, and every week we have a person who publishes our blog. Shannon Moreau publishes it weekly, and we do businesses spotlights, and we at no charge to people will boost posts for new businesses that sign up to our Black-owned businesses out over the web, so that people will hear about those businesses and hopefully support them. So we need to do a really good job for the businesses themselves. When I'm talking about reciprocal accountability, where is your website? Where is your social media? How are you participating in the 21st century? I can't support you if I don't know where you are. Make sure that you're sending out marketing, that you're participating in those things. And I often hear, well, we don't have the money, or we don't know how to do it. It's like, I will tell you that, again, there's so many free things that you can do. And a part of what New Mexico Black Leadership Council is about is information sharing, helping people build up their digital skills, because literally you will not be successful unless you can compete on the internet in the 21st century. So for the businesses themselves, they have accountability, and so do we. So when I go, I want to make sure that everything is great, that you're excellent, and that I can continue to patronize, and I want you to have great digital skills and to have a good footprint on the internet, and make sure that you're getting your information out using whatever skills you have. And if you don't have good enough skills, to go and get training and find people that'll do it. And there's so many people who will. And then for me as a consumer, for me to say, yeah, I'm going to go and support these businesses because it's important to me to do that. And that's what's happening in the Jewish community and in the Asian communities. And I also want to, as a business, to be able to say that, yeah, that's important to us, and we'll make sure that anybody who wants to sign up, go to our website and sign up on our website, and we'll be happy to make sure we can do what we can to help you.
talking about the black dollar, keeping our community. Let's go back to the community itself and the youth. What programs out here can we offer our next generation? What can we give them to help them sustain or get better than where we're at?
I think they're already doing so well. You know, a lot of young people are, they're definitely going to do better than we did, which I'm happy. I just was at a national convening, and they were talking about this organization called Build, that is a place for young people to become entrepreneurs. And it was so great because they were like going to take young people, teens, through every aspect of building your own business, understanding how you get capital, understanding how you make a pitch to a venture capitalist, understanding how you need to set up your product if you're doing product, or if you're providing a service, how you set those things up. And so as we, do a couple things, first of all, talk about financial literacy and, building credit, and how we accumulate wealth in hopefully a socially responsible way. Those kind of things need to be in the schools, and if they're not in the schools, that we provide that information in the community, and if it's not in the community, that caregivers provide it at home. So.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good answer as well. When somebody wants to start an organization, start a business, what are a couple of things that maybe you tell them or recommend to them that might be beneficial to them when they start up?
I want people to hold on to your vision and never let anybody dissuade you from believing in yourself that you can. There will always be detractors, and people say, well, you can't really, and, don't try, or, you probably should just go. You do what your heart tells you to do, and tap in, lean into your passion. But when people come into this business, I also have to say that you need both the passion and the paperwork. So passion without paperwork in this business is selling lift tickets and doing things superficially. Certainly there's a lot of that, and I'm hopeful that anybody who gets into, especially in the social profit sector, you need some receipts. You need passion, you need paperwork, and you need some receipts. And in order for you to be here for the long term, you got to be willing to stay true to this game. Understanding that there's going to be a lot of no's, that you're going to bump into a lot of systemic institutional racism that's existed over time, and that you continue anyway because it's what you want to do. So you got to decide, are you willing to do that? And then there's your answer.
Yeah, that's a great answer. People that aren't necessarily used to hearing the word no, and not necessarily taking that as a constructive criticism, are going to have a harder problem.
Sure. I have had a teacher who said that when I started working in development arena, she said, be grateful for your no's, because that'll get you closer to your yes. And there's going to be a whole bunch of no's, but that you needed to, when you get a no, ask someone, is this no forever or no for now? She said, just move on from the people that it's no forever, because they're never going to, no matter what you do, no matter how great you are, you're just not going to penetrate that market. So just move on. Lean into the people and keep them a little closer who say it's no for now. And you may have missed the mark in some way in terms of your pitch, but you go back to them when they say it's no for now, and you say, well, what could I do to make this a yes? And they will tell you, work on your writing, you didn't answer this question the way I wanted it to be answered. It's not in our funding right now, but I like what you're doing. And so if you come back to me in 2 months or, next year with these things corrected, we can talk about it. And then once you get there, recognizing that you're playing a long game, that you get there and you get your first yes. And your first yes opens the door to many others.
And so when it comes to financial literacy, what are a couple of things that you would like to tell the audience about things that you're going to come across and things that maybe they don't know about?
I would say that go find an expert. And if somebody came to me asking, about financial literacy, I'd be like, I've made every mistake in the book. I need to go to a class myself. And so what I would do to them, first of all, you figure out who are you talking to. Like, is this a person that you want to emulate? Do they know what they're talking about? Do they have receipts? Check it all the time to see if somebody's got receipts. And if that person is a bona fide expert, they're going to steer you in the right direction. We have a gentleman who's come to talk to us about people understanding how to invest money and how wealth is generated. Learned so much from him. And so what I want to be able to do in the Mexico Black Leadership Council is say, well, no, I'm not the expert, but I know some people who are. And so we're going to give those individuals a platform, and we're going to go to funders and say, this is needed, and here's this person who has the passion and he has the paperwork. And if people come to listen and learn under this particular person, they'll walk away with new knowledge, and then we'll have those receipts.
Okay. Definitely. And if someone wants to be more incorporated in the community, where are some places that you can go to find that incorporation?
I would say figure out what you want to do. If you are an artist, you want to find the people in the community who are artists. If you are a social worker, you want to find, is there a group of social workers that I can get with who are like-minded? If you are a young family, where do I find other young families with kids so that we can develop a co-op? And then I would say to you that if you go and you search and you say, well, Kathy, I looked and there's nothing. I live by a quote that said, if there's no standards, create them. And that if there's nothing there, then you build it. And a part of what New Mexico Black Leadership Council is about is supporting people who say, you know what, we need a group a place, a soft place to land for young families. And I'm just not finding it. And I want to create something like that. I feel like it's my job, my assignment, and my pleasure, really, to help people who are serious create those things that don't exist, fill those gaps.
Yeah, that's great. And so when it comes to maybe African American culture, where are some places where you would go to find that here in Albuquerque?
So in New Mexico, there are a lot of places in the Black townships. Down near Roswell, there's Blackdom and Vado, and learn about that information and maybe take a trip down there and ask for information. There's the African American, I always get it wrong, community culture coalition, I believe, with that Rita Padrell's group has started. They had a exhibit at the Albuquerque Museum and have been, I think, looking for a permanent location. There's places like that. There are at times the programs at the African American Performing Arts Center. Truthfully, I wish that there were more programs and that they were that we consistently improve those programs. You can check out our website at nmblc.org. We try to promote events that are going on in the community. There's the University of New Mexico African American Student Services that is run by Dr. Kirsten Buick, and they've got a lot of stuff coming up. And there's UNM African American Student Services, who is headed up by Brandy Stone. There are a whole host of people. There's the Greek letter organizations who do a lot of things. There's a whole host of people who are out there doing what they do. And I think that a part of the leadership that's required of NMBLC and the service that we offer is to try to be a repository for all that information, so you can come to us and say, what's happening around the state in Black New Mexico. There's another website called, I think it is nmblack.com, that Demetrius Gaines has run for years. And so between all of us, if you do some simple searches and type in Black in New Mexico, you're going to find something on the internet, or you're going to find things on social media that will give you the information you need. And so we want to make that, all of us want to make it a little bit easier. And I think if we're doing our job, that you'll find a lot of the information on our website.
On your website, yeah. That's a great resource.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the progression of our culture, what are maybe the top 3 things that you'd say are the most important?
I'd say for us to advance, especially in places where we are historically excluded, like New Mexico, unfortunately, it has to be about collaboration versus competition. We cannot pick up the tools of the oppressor, number 2. And then number 3, we have to remember our why. What is it? What's the reason for doing anything that we're doing? Who are we doing it for? Who benefits and who pays?
Okay. Great answer. I love it. All right. And I guess my last question would be, what's the next step for the council?
I think the Mexican Black Leadership Council, I was just talking about this last week. We're at NMBLC 3.0. And we're always wanting to recreate ourselves and to be our best self as an entity. And really what we're looking for right now is a workforce that is, and to develop a workforce who has so much passion about this work, and who also is willing to figure out how to do the paperwork well, and who will be excited about the receipts that we're able to show once we do the work. And so for us, what's on the horizon is to continue to build back better.
Nice. Great. I love it.
Thank you.